Hello and welcome back from both of us.
Hello, everyone.
And welcome to this deep dive brought to you by the Detox Health Channel. We're really excited to let you know that we have many more health-focused explorations planned for you in the future.
We're certainly looking forward to delving into a variety of interesting health topics. Yeah.
Exactly. These deep dives are designed to be, well, a fantastic way for you to gain some really valuable knowledge without having to sift through countless articles and websites.
hmm
We do the work of extracting the most important information for you, making it easier to stay well informed.
Think of it as like your shortcut to understanding what really matters.
And today, we're diving deep into a fish that's absolutely packed full of great nutrients.
It really is.
And we've synthesized all that key information to give you a clear understanding of its many health benefits, its nutritional profile, and, of course, some important things to consider when you're choosing and enjoying it.
It's a truly remarkable fish, with a lot to offer.
We'll be exploring just what makes salmon such a popular and, well, potentially beneficial food choice. We'll look at the different kinds of salmon you might come across, the crucial nutritional facts that make it so valuable, and the various ways you can incorporate it into your diet.
Right.
Our mission today is to equip you with a solid understanding of salmon's worth without getting lost in, unnecessary details.
hmm
Okay, let's unpack this. The first things first. When you hear salmon, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, in simple terms, salmon is a type of fish typically tender with that distinctive pink flesh and a firm texture. It's incredibly popular, particularly in America, and a lot of that comes down to its rich, almost buttery flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Your sources highlight a few key types of Pacific salmon you might find. Sockeye, pink, coho, and king, which is also known as chinook. What's interesting is that many of these Pacific varieties are wild-caught.
And what about Atlantic salmon? That seems to be quite common too.
That's right. Atlantic salmon is widely available, but here in the U.S., it's primarily farm-raised. This is mainly because commercial fishing for wild Atlantic salmon is, well, prohibited in the United States.
Ah, okay. That's a key difference to keep in mind.
Mm.
Now, I also noticed a little note about how to actually say the word salmon. It's not as straightforward as it looks, is it?
No, it's a bit of a linguistic quirk. The correct pronunciation is salmon, with that being completely silent. So it sounds like Sam-un.
Oh, and got it. Good to clear that up. And the color of salmon can vary quite a bit, right? Is that another clue to what type it is?
Absolutely. The color can often give you a good indication. Coho salmon, when they're mature, tend to be larger, have fewer spots, a sort of greenish hue on their head, and a maroon color along their flank, the side of their body.
Right.
Chinook or king salmon, often present with a brownish green color and very distinctive large spots that can be peanut-shaped or even look like a W when they're mature.
Wow, like a W.
Yeah. Then you have steelhead, which, while not technically the same as Pacific or Atlantic salmon, are closely related and often grouped with them. Steelhead tend to have pinkish cheeks and flanks and smaller spots scattered all over their bodies and tails. It's quite a visual variety.
It really is fascinating how different they can look. Now, one of the big discussions around salmon is the difference between wild and farmed. It sounds like there are some pretty significant distinctions there.
There certainly are, and they extend beyond just where the fish comes from. When we look at their nutritional makeup, some key differences emerge. Wild salmon generally has fewer calories and around half the total fat content compared to farmed salmon.
Okay.
On the flip side, farmed salmon often contains more saturated fat. However, and this is an interesting point, farmed salmon often has higher levels of those beneficial omega-3 fatty acids than wild salmon.
Really? Higher omega-3s in farmed.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nutritional seesaw,
Okay, so there's a bit of a trade-off there in terms of fat content and omega-3s. What about things we might be less keen on, like pollutants? Are there differences there too?
Here's where it gets really interesting and perhaps a bit concerning. The sources point to a significant disparity in pollutant levels. Farmed salmon can contain up to 16 times more PCBs. Those are polychlorinated biphenyls, a type of persistent organic pollutant compared to wild salmon.
16 times.
Yeah. Now, these PCBs have been linked to some serious health concerns, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, and even an increased risk of stroke in women. That's a pretty stark difference.
16 times more. That's quite a jump. Are there other types of contaminants we should be aware of when we're choosing between wild and farmed?
Yes, generally, farmed salmon tends to have a higher overall load of various contaminants compared to their wild counterparts.
Hmm.
While regulatory bodies like the FDA might deem these levels safe for occasional consumption, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, takes a more cautious stance and doesn't recommend frequent consumption of farmed fish.
Hmm.
This is a key reason why the advice often leans towards children, pregnant individuals, and those of childbearing age prioritizing wild salmon. However, a general recommendation for everyone, regardless of the type of salmon, is to remove the skin before cooking.
Ah, the skin.
As many of these substances tend to accumulate in the fatty tissues just under the skin.
Right, that makes sense. What about the risk of cancer-causing chemicals? That was also something that was touched on in the material.
Right. The potential for exposure to chemicals that could increase cancer risk exists with both wild and farmed salmon, though the sources might differ. Wild salmon can pick up pollutants from their natural environment, the waters they swim in,
Okay.
while farmed salmon can have higher levels of certain chemicals, like those PCBs we mentioned, present in their feed. The overall advice here seems to be moderation in consumption and ensuring you're not solely relying on salmon as your only source of omega-3s.
So vary your sources.
Exactly. A varied diet is always a good strategy.
And the issue of antibiotics. That's something that has come up in discussions about farmed fish in general.
Yes, there have been past concerns, particularly in the 1990s and 2000s, regarding imported farmed salmon, especially from Chile, that showed higher than permitted levels of antibiotics.
Right.
The worry there is not just about direct exposure, but also about contributing to the larger issue of antibiotic resistance, where these vital medications become less effective against bacteria.
A big problem.
Definitely. While it seems that antibiotic use in fish farming has decreased in many regions since then, the exact current levels can be difficult to ascertain. Given this history and ongoing concerns, wild salmon might be a more reassuring choice if antibiotic exposure is a significant factor for you.
Okay, that gives us a really good foundation in understanding what salmon is and those critical differences between wild and farmed. Let's shift gears now and talk about the nutritional powerhouse that salmon seems to be.
It truly lives up to that reputation. A typical serving size is around 3 to 4 ounces, and that will generally provide you with about 200 calories. It's remarkably low in saturated fat, which is something we often try to limit, and it's an excellent source of high-quality protein. As we touched on earlier, it's also one of the richest natural food sources of vitamin B12, which is essential for nerve function and red blood cell formation.
Crucial stuff.
Beyond that, it's packed with other vital nutrients like potassium, which plays a key role in blood pressure regulation, iron, important for carrying oxygen in the blood, and vitamin D, crucial for bone health and immune function.
You mentioned those, but can you give us a more comprehensive rundown of the key vitamins and minerals we can get from eating salmon?
Absolutely. Beyond the ones we've already named, salmon is also a significant source of vitamin B6, which is involved in brain development and function, selenium, an antioxidant that supports thyroid health, phosphorus, essential for bone and tooth health, iodine, vital for thyroid function,
Okay.
choline, important for brain health, pantothenic acid and biotin, which play roles in energy production, and of course, those highly beneficial omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. It's quite an impressive nutrient profile.
Wow. And we touched on the slight calorie difference between wild and farmed. Could you remind us of those numbers?
Yes, per 100 grams of cooked salmon, farmed salmon tends to be around 200 calories, while wild salmon is a bit leaner at approximately 180 calories.
Okay, 180 wild, 200 farmed.
Right. So if you're watching your calorie intake, wild might have a slight edge there.
And if we were to take a standard 3-ounce serving of, say, grilled or baked wild Atlantic salmon, what kind of specific nutritional breakdown are we looking at?
For a 3-ounce portion of grilled or baked wild Atlantic salmon, you're likely getting around 175 calories, 11 grams of fat, 0 carbohydrates, 0 sugar, and a solid 19 grams of protein.
19 grams, nice.
Plus, it contributes a notable percentage of your daily recommended value for vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron, although the exact percentages can vary slightly depending on the specific fish and cooking method.
So it's clear it's not just about the omega-3s. It's a really well-rounded source of essential nutrients. That leads us nicely into the specific health benefits. Where should we even begin with the perks of including salmon in our diet?
Well, given that rich nutrient profile, the potential health benefits are quite extensive. A logical starting point is heart health. The powerful combination of omega-3 fatty acids and potassium found in salmon offers significant support to the cardiovascular system in several ways.
Okay.
Regularly eating salmon has been shown to help reduce inflammation within the arteries, which is a key factor in heart disease. It can also help to lower levels of unhealthy cholesterol, maintain healthy blood pressure, prevent the body from retaining excess fluid, and ultimately reduce the risks of serious cardiovascular events like heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmia,
Irregular heartbeats.
and elevated triglyceride levels. That's a pretty comprehensive list of benefits right there.
It certainly is. That's a significant impact on heart health.
Yeah.
What about other areas? I remember seeing a connection to the health of our hair and skin.
Yes, those essential omega-3 fatty acids we keep mentioning also play a vital role in keeping our hair and skin healthy. They contribute to good scalp health, which can lead to stronger, shinier hair.
Yes.
Conversely, a lack of these nutrients can manifest as a dry scalp and dull-looking hair. Omega-3s also help to maintain the skin's natural barrier function and can contribute to overall skin health and appearance.
And what about our bones? That's another area where salmon seems to offer some advantages.
Absolutely. Strong and healthy bones rely on a variety of nutrients, and salmon is a good source of both vitamin D and calcium.
Calcium too.
Well, it has some, but the key is the vitamin D. While our bodies can't produce calcium on their own, vitamin D is crucial for helping us absorb and utilize that calcium effectively. Health experts generally recommend that adults aim for at least 2 portions, totaling about 8 ounces of seafood per week, particularly those rich in omega-3s like salmon, to support overall bone health. And because of its lower mercury content compared to some other types of fish, it's often considered a beneficial choice for children and pregnant individuals, of course, in appropriate serving sizes.
Let's delve a little deeper into these omega-3 fatty acids. We hear so much about them, EPA and DHA. They seem to be involved in just about everything. What makes them so uniquely important for our health?
What's fascinating here is that omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, are classified as essential fatty acids.
Essential meaning.
This means our bodies can't produce them in sufficient quantities on their own, so we absolutely have to obtain them through our diet.
Gotcha.
And their importance spans a vast range of bodily functions. They are well known for their ability to improve brain function, likely by supporting the structure and communication of brain cells. They also play a significant role in decreasing the risk of cardiovascular problems, including reducing the likelihood of heart attack and arrhythmia, and helping to lower the risk of stroke and high blood pressure. At a cellular level, they improve how our cells function, and they are powerful in helping to control the body's inflammatory processes, which underlies many chronic diseases. They even offer protection to our joints and have been shown to improve mood in some individuals.
Mood as well. Interesting.
Yeah. Emerging research also suggests they might play a protective role against certain types of cancer, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease, and could even help to ease the symptoms of conditions like rheumatoid arthritis. The general recommendation for adults is to aim for a combined daily intake of 250 to 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA to reap these benefits.
And salmon is a pretty reliable and potent source of these essential fats, right?
Absolutely. A standard 3 to 4 ounce serving of either wild or farmed salmon provides a substantial amount of these incredibly beneficial omega-3 fatty acids, making it an excellent dietary choice for boosting your intake.
We also can't overlook the protein content. You mentioned salmon as a good source. Why is adequate protein intake so vital for our overall health?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, protein is fundamental. It's the building block for all our tissues, including muscles, bones, and cartilage.
Right.
It plays a critical role in repairing damaged tissues and maintaining our existing muscle mass, which is particularly important during periods of weight loss and as we age. Adequate protein intake also supports a healthy metabolic rate, helping our bodies burn calories efficiently, and contributes to maintaining strong bone density. A typical 3.5-ounce serving of salmon delivers a very respectable 22 to 25 grams of high-quality protein,
That's a good
making it a significant contributor to our daily protein needs.
And what about that vibrant color of salmon? I understand that's linked to a compound called astaxanthin. What's the story there?
That's right, that beautiful pinkish-orange hue you see in salmon comes from astaxanthin, which is a powerful antioxidant, a type of carotenoid pigment.
An antioxidant, okay.
Yeah. This compound is believed to play a role in preventing a number of diseases, including neurodegenerative conditions that affect brain function, as well as various cardiovascular and inflammatory diseases. Some compelling research suggests that astaxanthin might lower the risk of heart disease by helping to reduce the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, often called the bad cholesterol,
Why LDL?
and increasing levels of HDL, the good cholesterol. It may also help to reduce overall inflammation in the body, decrease oxidative stress, which is an imbalance of free radicals and antioxidants, and even help to prevent the buildup of fatty plaque in our arteries.
Wow, plaque too.
Yeah. Furthermore, it's thought to have protective effects for our brain and nervous system, and might even help prevent damage to our skin from UV radiation. It's a real powerhouse compound.
It's amazing how these naturally occurring compounds can have such a wide range of positive effects.
Yeah.
Salmon also seems to be packed with various B vitamins.
Yes, it's quite impressive. Per 100 grams of wild salmon, you can get over 100% of your daily value for vitamin B12, a significant 63% for niacin, vitamin B3, 56% for vitamin B6, 38% for riboflavin, vitamin B2, and pantothenic acid, vitamin B5,
That's a lot.
0.23% for thiamine, vitamin B1, and even 7% for folic acid, vitamin B9. These B vitamins are really essential for a multitude of bodily functions. They are crucial for energy production, the synthesis and repair of our DNA, and play a key role in reducing chronic inflammation. They also have vital functions in supporting the healthy operation of our brain and nervous system.
And potassium, that's another mineral that salmon is notably rich in, isn't it?
Indeed. Wild salmon is a particularly good source of potassium, providing around 13% of the daily value per 100 grams, which, surprisingly, is actually more than what you typically find in farm salmon or even in a banana.
More than a banana, really.
Yeah, potassium is absolutely essential for managing healthy blood pressure levels and may play a role in reducing the risk of stroke by helping to regulate the balance of fluids in the body and preventing the retention of excess water.
And selenium.
Yeah.
I recall that being highlighted as another important mineral found in salmon.
Absolutely. A 100-gram serving of salmon can provide a very substantial amount of selenium, often ranging from 75 to 85% of your daily value.
Wow, 75, 85%.
Selenium is a trace mineral that's incredibly important for several key processes in the body, including DNA synthesis, the proper metabolism of thyroid hormones, and our reproductive health. There's also ongoing research suggesting that adequate selenium intake may play a role in protecting bone health, potentially decreasing thyroid antibodies in individuals with autoimmune thyroid conditions, and even possibly reducing the risk of certain types of cancer. It's a really vital nutrient.
So when we put all this together, it certainly sounds like regular consumption of salmon could lead to some pretty significant long-term health benefits, particularly in areas like reducing the risk of heart disease.
That's a really key takeaway. The combination of those omega-3 fatty acids and the overall nutrient profile of salmon can indeed contribute to a healthier balance of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids in our bodies and help to lower levels of triglycerides in the blood, both of which are important factors in maintaining good cardiovascular health.
And for those of us who are mindful of our weight or actively trying to manage it, could incorporating salmon into our diet be beneficial?
It certainly could play a supportive role. The high protein content of salmon helps to regulate the hormones that control our appetite, which can help us feel fuller for longer and potentially reduce overall calorie intake.
Feeling full, yeah.
Additionally, protein has a slightly higher thermic effect than carbohydrates or fats, meaning it can slightly boost our metabolic rate. Some research also suggests that the omega-3 fatty acids present in salmon might play a role in promoting weight loss and helping to reduce the accumulation of belly fat, although more research in this specific area is always ongoing.
Right, more research needed there.
Yeah. And, as we noted earlier, especially wild salmon is relatively low in calories for the nutritional punch it packs.
It also sounds like salmon has some pretty potent anti-inflammatory properties, which is so important for overall health.
Yes, that's another really significant benefit. The omega-3 fatty acids in salmon are well known for their anti-inflammatory effects. Regular consumption may help to reduce various markers of chronic inflammation in the body, and chronic inflammation is implicated in a wide range of diseases, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even certain types of cancer.
So it fights that underlying inflammation.
Exactly. By helping to manage inflammation, salmon contributes to overall well-being.
And what about our brains? It seems like salmon is also really beneficial for cognitive function throughout our lives.
The evidence in this area is quite compelling. Consistent salmon consumption has been associated with supporting healthy brain development in fetuses during pregnancy, potentially slowing down age-related cognitive decline as we get older,
Keeping sharp.
helping to preserve overall brain function as we age, and even possibly lowering the risks of developing dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Some studies have also indicated that it might improve memory function and even the structure of the brain itself. It's really quite remarkable.
That's really encouraging to hear. And it might even have a positive impact on our mental well-being.
There's some promising research emerging that suggests the omega-3 fatty acids in salmon may play a role in lowering the risk of developing depression, particularly in women, and may also help to reduce symptoms of anxiety and improve overall mood.
Interesting.
However, it's important to note that while the initial findings are encouraging, more high-quality, large-scale studies are still needed to fully understand the extent of these potential mental health benefits.
Right. Cautious optimism there. And let's not forget about our vision. Sounds like salmon contributes to eye health as well.
That's correct. Salmon contains several nutrients that are beneficial for eye health, including astaxanthin, that powerful antioxidant we discussed, vitamin A, though primarily in farm salmon, and those essential omega-3 fatty acids. These compounds may play a role in preventing age-related macular degeneration, reducing eye fatigue, and potentially even helping with conditions like uveitis, cataracts, and the discomfort of dry eye syndrome. It's another unexpected benefit.
And finally, tying back to our earlier discussion about keeping our bones strong, it sounds like salmon continues to impress in that area too.
It certainly does. Being a good source of both vitamin D and phosphorus, both of which are absolutely crucial for the absorption of calcium and maintaining overall bone strength, regular salmon consumption may be linked to a lower risk of developing osteoporosis in some populations.
Okay.
Although, as with some other areas, more research is needed to definitively confirm this link across diverse groups of people.
So it's abundantly clear that salmon offers a truly impressive array of potential health benefits. But we also need to be responsible and touch on the potential risks that might be associated with eating it.
Absolutely. While the benefits are significant and well documented, it's crucial to be aware of potential downsides to make informed dietary choices. One concern, particularly with very high doses of omega-3 fatty acids, such as those found in some supplements that exceed 3 grams per day,
High doses, right?
is the potential for increased bleeding, especially in individuals who are already taking anticoagulant medications, as omega-3s have natural blood-thinning properties. It's always best to adhere to recommended dietary guidelines and consult with a healthcare professional if you have any concerns, especially if you're on medication.
Good advice. We also discussed the issue of pollutants earlier, PCBs. Is that a continued risk that we need to be mindful of, even with moderate consumption of salmon?
The issue of persistent organic pollutants like PCBs and dioxins, which tend to be higher in farmed fish, is a valid concern. While regulations are in place in many countries to limit the levels of these contaminants in food, long-term exposure to even low levels has been linked to potential health issues, including effects on hormone levels and an increased risk of conditions like type 2 diabetes and obesity. Choosing wild salmon when possible can help to minimize this risk.
And the potential for exposure to cancer-causing chemicals, is that something we should be particularly worried about with salmon consumption?
As we discussed earlier, both wild and farm salmon can carry a potential risk of exposure to carcinogens, whether it's from environmental pollution in the case of wild salmon, or potentially from contaminants in the feed used in fish farming. However, the general scientific consensus from the sources we've looked at is that the overall benefit-to-risk ratio tends to be more favorable for wild salmon.
So wild is generally better on that front.
Generally, yeah. The key takeaway here is moderation and variety in your diet, rather than eliminating salmon entirely.
What about mercury levels? I know that's a concern with some types of seafood. How does salmon fare in that regard?
That's a very important point to raise. Salmon does contain mercury, but the good news is that the levels are generally considered to be lower than in some other types of fish that are higher up the food chain, such as swordfish, shark, and king mackerel.
Okay, lower than those big predators.
Exactly. However, it's still a consideration, especially for developing fetuses and the nervous systems of young children. This is why dietary guidelines often recommend that pregnant individuals and young children limit their consumption of certain types of fish. And while salmon is generally considered a safer choice than some others, moderation is still advised.
Now, before we move on to the best ways to eat salmon, I noticed a section in our materials about salmon eggs, also known as a roe. That sounds like it could be interesting.
It is. Salmon roe are the mature, developed eggs of salmon and have that very distinctive red-orange color. Nutritionally, they're quite dense and provide many of the same vitamins and minerals that are found in the salmon meat itself, often in concentrated amounts.
Like little nutrient bombs.
Kind of, yeah. Intriguingly, some preliminary research suggests that consuming fish roe might offer potential benefits in areas like improving or preventing symptoms of depression and inflammation, supporting heart health, and even potentially easing the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis.
Hmm.
Although it's important to note that more rigorous research is still needed to confirm these effects definitively.
And what does the nutritional profile of salmon eggs look like in a typical serving, say, a tablespoon?
A single tablespoon of raw salmon roe is surprisingly low in calories, around 20, and yet it provides a good amount of protein, about 3 grams, along with 1 gram of fat, no carbohydrates or fiber, and no sugars. It's also a noteworthy source of potassium and vitamins A, B12, and C.
Wow.
So, as you said, a little nutritional boost in a small and visually striking package.
So we've covered what it is, the nutritional benefits, and some potential risks. Now let's get down to the practicalities. What should we be looking for when we're buying salmon, and what are the best ways to prepare and eat it?
Okay, selection. When you're selecting salmon, the first thing you should do is give it a sniff. Fresh salmon should have a very mild, almost clean scent, not at all a strong or fishy odor.
No fishy smell. Got it.
Always opt for fish that is displayed refrigerated or on a thick bed of ice. If you're purchasing frozen salmon, make sure the packaging is intact and the fish itself feels solid with no signs of thawing and refreezing, like ice crystals or discoloration.
And what about once we get it home? How should we handle and store it?
Proper hygiene is crucial when handling any raw food, including salmon. Make sure to wash your hands thoroughly before and after handling the fish, and keep your cutting boards and utensils clean to prevent the spread of bacteria.
Cross-contamination, yeah.
Exactly. If you've bought frozen salmon, the safest way to thaw it is gradually in the refrigerator overnight. If you need it more quickly, you can thaw it in a leak-proof bag, submerged in cold water, changing the water every 30 minutes, or as a last resort, you can use the microwave. But if you do, you should cook the salmon immediately afterwards.
Cook right away if microwaving.
Yes. And a general food safety rule to always remember is never to leave any seafood or other perishable foods at room temperature for more than 2 hours.
2-hour rule. Important. And when it comes to actually cooking the salmon, what's the best way to ensure it's both delicious and safe to eat?
You should always cook salmon to an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit.
145 F. Okay.
At this point, the flesh should have turned opaque throughout and should flake easily when gently pressed with a fork. While you can technically eat salmon raw, it's essential that it has been previously frozen to kill any potential parasites. However, due to the risk of various bacteria that cooking effectively eliminates, experts generally recommend cooking salmon using methods like broiling, grilling, poaching, or baking as the safest approach.
What about frying? That's a pretty common way some people like to cook fish.
While you certainly can fry salmon, it's generally not considered the healthiest cooking method. Frying can sometimes seal in pollutants that might already be present in the fish.
Oh, okay.
If you do choose to fry salmon, it's best to do it at home so you can control the type and amount of oil used. Opting for a healthy oil like olive oil and using just a tablespoon or so is a better approach than deep frying.
Pan frying lightly is better. Our sources also mentioned some specific dishes featuring salmon, like salmon patties and sashimi. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Yes, salmon patties or croquettes are a fantastic way to use cooked salmon. They typically involve flaking cooked salmon and combining it with other ingredients like breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings, and then pan frying or baking them. They can be served as appetizers, added to salads, or even used as a healthier alternative to traditional burgers. Salmon sashimi, on the other hand, is a Japanese delicacy consisting of thinly sliced raw salmon served, often with soy sauce and wasabi. It's a very different preparation method that relies on the quality and freshness of the fish.
Now, let's dive a little deeper into healthy cooking methods. What are some popular and recommended ways to prepare salmon?
Baking is a very popular and healthy method that's also quite easy. You can bake salmon in the oven at around 400 degrees Fahrenheit for approximately 12 to 15 minutes for a standard fillet.
400 F, 12-15 minutes.
Though the exact time will depend on the thickness. Wrapping it loosely in parchment paper or aluminum foil on a baking sheet can help to keep it moist and flavorful. Air frying has also become a great option as it allows you to achieve a slightly crispy exterior without the need for added oils.
Air fryers are popular now.
Very much so. Grilling is another excellent choice, imparting a lovely smoky flavor. You can prevent the salmon from sticking to the grill by lightly oiling the grates, and you can also wrap it in foil if you prefer a more tender, steamed-like result. Grilled salmon cooks fairly quickly, usually about 3 to 5 minutes per side, depending on the heat and thickness.
Quick on the grill.
Yeah. Poaching is a very gentle method that results in incredibly moist salmon, and it simply involves simmering the fish in a flavorful liquid like water, broth, or even wine. All of these methods allow you to enjoy the natural flavors of the salmon while keeping the added fats to a minimum.
And what about the practice of eating raw salmon? It's quite common in certain cuisines. Is there anything else we should know about that?
Yes, as we've mentioned, eating raw salmon is a tradition in many cultures, evident in dishes like sushi and sashimi in Japan, poke bowls in Hawaii, and even in Scandinavian gravlax or smoked salmon preparations.
Smoked salmon, too.
Well, it's important to understand that while smoked salmon is cured, it's not actually cooked by heat, but it is generally considered safe if it has been properly refrigerated and was vacuum sealed according to USDA guidelines.
Okay, cured, not cooked. But getting back to truly raw salmon preparations like sashimi, are there any inherent safety risks that we should be particularly aware of?
You're right to be cautious. There are indeed potential risks associated with consuming any type of raw fish or seafood.
Hmm.
One of the primary concerns is the presence of parasites.
Parasites, right?
Cooking effectively kills these, and freezing to a specific temperature for a specific duration can also eliminate them. However, in the United States, there isn't a universal federal regulation mandating that restaurants flash freeze fish that's intended to be served raw.
No regulation.
Hmm. Another term you might hear is sushi-grade fish. While this term is often used to imply the highest quality and freshness suitable for raw consumption, it's actually not a legally or federally regulated term. It generally means that the supplier has deemed the fish to be of a high enough standard and handled appropriately to minimize risks.
So sushi grade is not official.
Not officially regulated, no. Bacteria are also a significant concern with raw salmon. You run the risk of foodborne illnesses caused by bacteria such as Salmonella and Vibrio vulnificus. Finally, cross-contamination can occur if raw fish comes into contact with contaminated surfaces, utensils, or other foods during preparation.
So are there any specific groups of people who should absolutely avoid eating raw salmon due to these potential risks?
Yes, absolutely. Raw salmon is not considered safe for certain vulnerable populations, including pregnant individuals, people with compromised immune systems due to illness or medication, young children, and older adults.
Okay, so those groups should stick to cooked.
Definitely. These groups have a higher risk of developing serious complications from foodborne illnesses, so it's best for them to avoid raw fish altogether.
S- So just to quickly recap on the potential health risks of eating salmon in general, we've talked about potential contaminants, the issue of antibiotic use in some farmed varieties, and the presence of mercury, albeit generally at lower levels than in some other hits of fish.
Exactly. Contaminants like PCBs and dioxin are something to be mindful of, particularly with farm salmon, although regulations are in place to try and control those levels. The use of antibiotics in fish farming raises environmental concerns and the risk of contributing to antibiotic resistance, so if this is a significant concern for you, opting for wild-caught salmon might be a better choice.
Right.
And while mercury levels in salmon are relatively low, pregnant individuals should still be aware of their overall seafood intake and avoid raw options.
So as you can see, salmon really does offer a wide array of potential health benefits, largely thanks to its rich content of omega-3 fatty acids, high-quality protein, and a variety of essential vitamins and minerals.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground in our discussion today. It's quite a fish.
We've explored the key distinctions between wild and farmed salmon, highlighted its impressive nutritional value, and looked at the many delicious and versatile ways you can enjoy this fish, as well as some important considerations to keep in mind regarding its consumption to help you make informed choices for your own diet.
Hopefully, this deep dive has provided you with a much clearer and more comprehensive understanding of what salmon has to offer.
Yeah. We really hope this deep dive has given you valuable insights and a clearer picture of the role salmon can play in a healthy diet. For more deep dives like this, covering a wide range of health topics, all designed to help you gain knowledge efficiently and effectively, be sure to check out the Detox Health channel and consider subscribing so you don't miss any of our future explorations. We have many more planned to help you navigate the often complex world of health and wellness.
We're always researching and preparing to bring you more in-depth discussions. It's what we enjoy.
And here's a final thought for you to consider. Given all the nuances we've discussed today regarding wild versus farm salmon, their different nutritional profiles, and the potential for various contaminants, what are some creative and practical ways you could ensure you're getting the optimal health benefits from including salmon in your diet while also minimizing any potential risks? It's definitely something worth pondering. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Until then, take good care.